criticizes people who are trying to get things
Happy
done.
Monday, guys.
Actually,
It's Monday afternoon,
And
5:09.
That's why he believes in public service. Andrew is
Back
the same
in
thing.
Koreatown.
He skips right past the price.
I'm listening to Tucker Carlson and Chris Cuomo.
I could never get past it. I'd be like, no way I'm going to have 100 Tucker Carlsons chewing on my ass like a dog toy every day. Not going to happen. I won't be able to handle it. I want to fight them all the time. And he goes right past that to all these ideas about what he could do in that capacity and what needs to be done. And I'm like, yeah, but you have to go through this gauntlet to get to this place just to try to do this really hard thing. And he looks
What's
at me
up,
like,
Big Gochi
and
Soja Mike?
and so I gotta.
Did you listen to this podcast earlier?
Level of intensity, you
I
just
like
cannot
both of them.
let
Chris Cuomo's a little bit too
wreck the city. You can't let them live on the
eccentric,
side.
or
That's how
not
he thinks.
eccentric, but he
Let him
talks a lot.
read and-
I agree with
I don't
you.
agree
I
with
just
Chris
want somebody
Cuomo.
else to deal with it.
Yeah.
Because it's such a hellscape right now. Look what works in politics. If I'm running against you for anything, okay, strategy is simple. We got to destroy him. What can we find on him?
Well, actually, I think the lesson is it doesn't work because Trump is now the president.
Yeah, that would be
That
interesting.
is true. He did overcome.
It's not going to be able to change a lot of that,
His
unfortunately.
son's in jail.
He did overcome
in jail. Right, they shot
But
him.
he is a unicorn. Also, he is the true Teflon dog.
But it's
That
an
kid's out of
inspiration.
school now.
Like, whatever you think of Trump, what he
Couples.
does, he's basically saying the same things he was saying 25 years ago. You can pull the tape on Larry King Live about tariffs,
King Live.
about immigration, about foreign policy. He's basically, he's changed, of course, on a lot of little things, but on the big things, exactly the same. And he just kept going, and it worked. So
Well, I think that
maybe it's the lesson that there are limits to what the person is having.
that's what I was going to say. Is that I think that he's more of a symptom than he is a cause. The election message was, you guys are focusing on things that don't matter to us the way you want them to.
Right.
And what does matter to us doesn't matter enough to you. And what they saw in Trump were two main things. One, the personification of this, that you are trying to destroy this guy on a basis that we are not really
When you hear
okay
Cuomo
with.
makes you sick?
And the second thing is,
Yeah, he's a
that
little bit off.
he wants to disrupt all the things that we believe need disruption. And his views between the cancel culture and different cultural wars, as we call them, Donald Trump, for whatever you want to say about him negatively, approximated normal to the American voters more than the Democrats did.
Yep, I would agree with that.
And
Well,
that's
the trading
the
stuff
message.
just scared the crap out of everybody.
But that's an example of what I'm saying.
I think there are many examples, but that one was like so florid and crazy that, and it's still going on, that I to this day I don't understand it. And we live in a world where there are always going to be people who want to wear women's clothes or whatever. Fine.
Oh, I understand it. You saw it.
To elevate trannyism to like the top of the agenda.
I can explain it to you very easily. It's readily apparent. And look, we saw the same mistake on display when the president addressed Congress. Okay? That is not a time for you to be obnoxious. If he wants to be obnoxious, fine. You are there out of respect for the office. There are rules of decorum in that place. I believe there should be rules of decorum in all places, in media and politics. But there aren't. But there are there. And they willfully and wantonly abuse them to make a point that they are against Trump. And it was a bad look for the Democrats. What is it an extension of? We, as Democrats, they will tell you, we are resisting who he wants to abuse and what he wants to destroy. Like what? Trans are a unique minority in this country. They are uniquely targeted. They need protection. We are going to protect them. Okay, but this particular aspect of the issue, guys my size who decide to become female and play against my daughter in high school, that is not what you need to protect them from or against. That's something that doesn't make sense. Nope.
No, I didn't hear him
You
say
have
that.
to
Did Trump say
hold
that? That's
to
crazy.
the purity of the cause of protecting this minority group.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you're not protecting them. You're protecting the people that are playing against them because they're 230 pounds. Yeah, it almost never happens. But if it happens once, it's something that never needed to happen. The purity test.
I got to go to the gym, man. I've been skipping out on the gym lately.
Politics. That if you are for something, you have to be all in on it beyond any conception of reason. That's what we're dealing with in our politics.
But
that's what that is.
Well, of course, and I can think of a million topics on which that is true. I see
that with guns on the right.
Maybe right.
That lady that's pushing that shopping cart, she's pretty crazy.
I'm an absolutist on that. I can tell you why. It's not even that interesting. But what I think, the right to self-defense is a part of natural law. The idea that a man can become a woman by wishing it so is not only a violation of natural law, it's a violation of nature itself. It's like inherently insane. It's a denial of physical reality. And so so the argument is, there are people with weird sexual impulses who we shouldn't scapegoat and hurt. I mean, I'm totally in agreement with that.
It is a perversion of live and let live. So,
in the
interest of live and let live,
the rest of us to
that's
tell
right.
a lie.
That's the perversion.
That's where that's when you feel like this is a spiritual attack.
Well, it doesn't have to be a lie. In the interest of live and let live, right, which is a signature of American freedom, or should be, right? You don't want these people to live the way they want to live. You are infringing on their rights. We will protect them. Now, I understand the political philosophy behind that. But once it entered a realm of where the people that you say you're trying to protect are now a problem for another group that need protection. Also,
he's still alive. He supposedly stopped drinking, but then he
click into the common sense
was live streaming, and then he got drunk again because he got donations.
The idea that the government should be involved in
Have you been watching the live streams in Japan?
Concept to me. I don't think it should be.
Pretty interesting stuff.
And they're promoting
now they're in Korea.
Homosexuality, promoting it, and I'll tell you how we know that they're promoting it, because its incidence has risen dramatically. Now, when I was a young man,
let me turn my motor off. Even though I'm in the red.
Born that way. You're born gay. So you cannot criticize someone on the basis of his immutable characteristics. Great. I totally agree with that. But then we saw the absolute incidence of self-reported homosexuality triple. So clearly people aren't born that way. 30% of 8th graders were born gay? No, that's not true. And so there's been this dramatic rise that none of us are allowed to notice. It's like, you can't notice that. Well, why? Okay. Yes, I can. And I'm sort of thunderstruck by it. What is that? And it clearly is a manifestation
I never met that guy.
Truth, which is,
I don't know. I have a feeling he'd probably blow up on me, wouldn't he?
People can also be moved.
You know what really sucks, though? Big Gucci Soja Mike. I have bad knees, man. I can't really walk around that much anymore.
I don't think that's good. And I also don't understand why the government
kind of sucks, man.
Taking my tax dollars.
I miss walking around like I used to.
That certain forms of sex are better than others, particularly non-procreative sex.
Yeah, unfortunately, my knees are not good. I might have to get a knee replacement later on.
It's an easy legal and moral backstop that government.
Do I remember Zubizi?
Business of type. Okay, that's
easy. Yeah, Zubizi. God, that sounds familiar.
Should be doing. That isn't necessary. I believe that is an extension to.
Yeah, I just lift, man. When I was younger, I used to do squats and all that stuff. And I used to work on my legs, but not anymore, though.
Reproductive rights. I think it is a right.
I do need some type of exercise for my legs other than walking.
Gay acceptance a little differently.
Because my knees get too tight. It's like when I walk, I can feel it. I don't have to rubbing each other like that, bone to bone.
You used to get beat up. You used to get ostracized. You used to get excluded. That happens less.
But I need to go lift, though.
But it happens less.
I need to work on my shoulders and arms and back.
A cultural formation that we see, like in America, everything goes in these big swings in different directions. Always reaction formation.
Fit.
Are we more gay-friendly in our culture, aggressively so, assertively so, than we were when we were growing up? Yes. Can that make it more attractive to young people who are struggling and trying to figure themselves out? Maybe.
There's a lot of, what's crazy is there's a lot of young guys out there that are hitting it hard, man. They're doing heavy weights. They're going way heavier than I used to go.
A lot of them were gay in college and gay afterwards, but I think there's something to experimenting and certain people play out with identity.
It's like, okay, but I just want to get to the core question, which is, where does this come from, being gay? Is it inborn? We were told you're born that way. Okay, so where's the gene?
Being gay is biologically you're born that way.
I don't know the genetics, but I do believe.
No one has isolated a gene.
But you haven't noticed when you were raising your kids that there would be certain kids that you were like, I think this kid's going to be gay?
Baby tears, huh?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Like where they were too young to be mimicking it.
I absolutely did notice that. And so I'm not saying
I can't believe Chicken Andy's over in Japan.
I'm just saying,
and he went to Korea. He's in Korea now.
But what I do know is if you've got a third of middle schoolers saying I'm not heterosexual, that's not.
I haven't talked to that guy in a long time.
That's not more than it does.
You guys ever watch Chicken Andy?
I think that there's two things can be true. You can have that it's easier to be accepted today. I'm not saying that.
Last time I saw him was when we were in Mexico during COVID.
Gay, it's like the main descriptor of them, whereas you and I don't identify. Oh,
this guy lives in my building.
straight guy.
Very odd.
But when
He
you're
didn't say
gay,
anything.
you still get labeled that way.
Very quiet.
But I think two things can be happening at the same time. That there is a culture of persuasion.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Let's say,
appreciate it, Jake.
In a guided or misguided sense of acceptance. And I think it is safer for people to come out now than it was a generation ago.
Yes, both are true. But I guess the point I'm making is it's really clear that the federal government, state governments, local governments, and NGOs are promoting homosexuality among kids. Obviously true to me. And transgenderism among kids. And my point is,
yeah, as far as sexuality,
and when I
kids
was a child,
shouldn't worry about until
if an
they're
adult went
18.
up to a kid in a park and start talking to him about his sex life, you could shoot the gut because that's not
they don't
acceptable.
need to be pressured to that stuff, man.
Other people's children about
Whether
sex.
they're gay or whatever,
And
they want
now
to be
it's not
transgender.
acceptable. It's the rule, and it's paid for by my tax dollars. And I'm just saying, like, that's really destructive.
Look, it is a very persuasive argument. I don't know. It certainly hasn't been my experience in my kids' schools, public and private, that I felt that they were being indoctrinated.
They didn't have Pride Week.
Into any
Pride Month.
I don't remember it specifically, but even if they did, let's say they did. I can't prove that right now, but let's say they did.
Yeah,
that to me is not the same thing as indoctrination. I have no problem with adults and children being exposed to different belief systems and different ways and different cultures. I have no problem with tolerance. Now, indoctrination is a different word.
Well, pride is not tolerance. Pride is the opposite of tolerance. Pride is a celebration.
Right.
And so you're celebrating certain sex acts with other people's kids. And I just think right there you've crossed a line.
Well, Pride Week doesn't have to be children, right? When you have the the St. Patrick's Day parade, it's not making people be Irish.
I totally agree.
You see Stephen A. Smith as they can see all the time.
Yeah,
I noticed that. Well, I think he's fed up with the Democratic Party. The Democratic Party
people are
is becoming very ignorant. They're just
they live. That's fine. I have a huge problem.
They don't know how to really fix the party.
Governments getting involved in
just call it alphabet crew. They just keep adding to the acronym and keep it up. No, I know what you mean, man. It's tough. It's hard.
Their job is to keep everybody safe.
No, but it's not safe. It's promoting it.
No, I got.
I strongly believe there's only two genders. There's only female and male.
Their job is to keep kids safe, which means if my kid is gay,
you're either born that way and you die that way, unless you do a post-op and then.
That's the role of the school. That's the role of the law. Is
technically change sexes, but
and be free and safe. It's different to you
gotta
trying to
change
teach
your
my
birth
kid to
certificate
be
and everything.
gay. If that's going on,
I saw on TV there was a serial killer that was killing a lot of prostitutes in Spokane, Washington. And the serial killer was originally a guy, but then he went to Thailand and got a sex change, came back as a woman, and so it was so hard for them to find out who this killer was because it was a transgender.
And it's also really attractive. Liberty Safe just created something really
forgot
cool.
how they
It's
found
a
out.
limited edition safe that commemorates the inauguration
I think there was some
of Donald
DNA
Trump,
or something that they had
America's
found.
47th president. The original design
But
celebrates
it was weird.
Trump and his swearing-in while upholding Liberty's commitment to building their safes right here in the United
This
States.
guy used to
They
go
went
around
all
picking
out
up
in this one.
prostitutes in
It's the
Spokane
special
and kill them.
47 edition. It features a one-of-a-kind
Yeah, it was like a
artwork
span of like
that
10
pays
or 15
homage to the
years.
president. It's very, very cool.
And then he went
Not
over
all
to
safes are
Thailand and got a
created
sex
equal. There are
change and
plenty
became a
out there,
woman.
and a lot of the manufacturers slap an American-sounding name on the label, but they are not made.
Really freaky stuff, man.
Celebrate this historic moment, secure the things that you.
Of violence because we just watched our president get shot in the head.
Of course, but from some from whatever group.
Becoming trans is becoming
has been
who
able to keep
you
this file
really
secret
are,
for 62 years.
who you
so my question to you
were
is,
meant to
what is
be.
that? Why have these been secret for so long?
Look,
I don't know,
the
maybe.
idea of the deep state
I guess if you feel that way.
is a convenience more than it is
I know.
a reality.
I used to hang out with Rosie O'Kelly, and she
Why don't they put it
transgender
out?
back into a
Because
man.
institutions protect themselves, Tucker, as we both know.
You can't
And
do it,
there's
man.
clearly information in those files that are going to make the CIA look bad.
Just the CIA.
Well, whatever. Different
No,
agencies.
not whatever. I mean,
Well, I don't know because I haven't seen
Okay,
it.
well, so
But
here's...
it could be the FBI, it could be the
always,
CIA.
Okay, so I've always thought that. And then in January, there was a scramble over who's going to get what jobs in the new administration. And at one point, there was someone who was being discussed.
So now the
for a
sun
job
was set
in the
like
Intel
a little
world,
after 7, which is going to be
and
awesome.
A member of the SSCI, the Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and Intel
Let's see if there's
Committee,
anyone kick.
went
Watching me.
to the people making the decisions.
I need
You
more
cannot
follow
hire
me on
this
Kick,
person because
guys.
This person will be certain
I need
to push for the release
to
of the
get
JFK files.
verified on
this is
Kick.
This fact. So this is in 2025, less than 2 months ago, and you have a sitting member of the United States Senate whose main goal is to keep those files secret. And then you have to ask yourself, what
Why?
is that?
Yeah.
Exactly. Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Were they
And
even alive?
now, of course, no one was alive. It was 62 years ago.
I know.
And by the way, the institution, no one can even tell you who the CIA director was. And who, do you remember the name of the CIA director? John McCone, I think. 1963. But that person is like completely lost to history except a specialist.
I
So-
don't-
Nick White
and the
is
CIA
doing
has already been through 50
Van-
years ago the Church Committee hearings,
IRL in
1975, where we
Vancouver.
sort of know they're assassinating people, dosing people with acid, all this stuff. It's like the CIA has already been discredited. So if you're telling me that 6 weeks ago a member of the United States Senate was trying to keep someone out of a job in order to keep these files secret, that is to protect the CIA, I don't believe that for a second.
So what do you think it is?
I don't know. But this is, there's no one at the CIA who's involved.
Then.
Actually, yeah, who's involved in the Kennedy assassination. There's no one in America who's involved in the Kennedy assassination.
So here's what I know. First of all, I don't believe that the CIA has been completely discredited. I believe in the institutions. They have to be checked. The media used to be in the business of checking the institutions. Now we're in the business of defending them tacitly because we have a president that attacks them all the time. But so Mike
Can't believe my
Pompeo
birthday is coming up this
he's in charge
Saturday.
of the CIA. Trump says, I'm releasing the files.
Right.
Okay? Somebody says something to Mike Pompeo that he then goes to the President of the United States and says, you can't release these things. And Trump acknowledges it. Now, do I believe that Trump did it under threat? No. I think that Trump just decided that whatever he was being told made sense.
But it's, and I'm not even speaking of Trump or Pompeo, who's a very sinister person. And you're absolutely right, Pompeo was the driver behind that. But who's driving Pompeo? I mean, it doesn't actually make sense, the story. It doesn't make sense. And by the way, we have the file numbers of most of the files that have not been disclosed. So it's like Trump issues an executive order on January 23rd saying you're going to release this stuff. They kind of can't not release it. And yet now it's the first week in March and they haven't released it. So pressure is currently being applied on the administration not to release those files.
It seems that way.
By whom?
I don't know.
Some mid-level analyst at CIA who just doesn't want to discredit the institution he works for? I don't think so. What is that?
I don't know.
Who?
I don't
who is
believe it's the
pressuring?
Rockefellers, the Pope, and
I'm not.
I don't believe
I'm
that
not
either.
even guessing. All I'm saying is we can say with certainty that there is a force acting on these people, a very serious force, to the point where they're embarrassing themselves because they promised they'd release this and they haven't.
Look, I don't disagree with
So what the hell is that?
I don't know, but it's not just that, right? Now we get this weird story about the Epstein files. Who even cares? You know what I mean? Who? I want it released. I believe in transparency. I think it's the route to trust. And it's not just because I'm in the media. It's just common sense. But A.G. Bondi, I don't have any reason to be anti-A.G. Bondi. And she says she's going to release the files. And I don't even care that they released them to their pod people. I mean, I thought that was stupid, but that's fine. They want to do it, they do it. They're playing to preference, okay? Now, then there's a story about
Who's
the New
driving
York
Pompeo?
FBI, they had
I don't
all the files. And we're going to have to we're going to fire this guy who's supposedly, by most
What's that
accounts,
saying?
is a pretty
You should
solid
get
guy that
those
they
glasses that
quit.
record video and get.
Where are the
Oh,
files?
okay.
Where are they?
Yeah, that would be cool,
Because
huh?
I thought Trump was the antidote to this. And to me, the heartbreak has already come and gone. UFOs, to me, is the best example of what you're picking.
Can we just back up? And I totally agree. I just want to just linger for 1 second on the Epstein things. So what is that? I mean, once again, you clearly have a force that's applying measurable pressure.
What if I should turn around and
on
park
the
at the
people
meter?
who should have the power, The elected president of the United States should have the power under our system. That's called democracy.
Yeah, because you got about,
his
what, I think
appointees
it's 8 to 6.
have derivative power from him.
Yeah, he's a good part there.
But they appear to be powerless in the face of some other source of power. And the question is, what is that source?
I don't know. And where's your boy Kash Patel?
The security guard for the building found a parking space.
Bust all this up.
I can't answer that.
He put out this weird tweet, that was very general. Like, things are going to change and we're going to do this. After we learned that someone under his control now, right? Because he's the head of the FBI.
Got a nice Camry hybrid.
That's under him. Why wasn't he there? Why didn't he go there and say, give me the files? Give them to me.
Weren't you just saying the deep state's not real?
I don't know. I don't believe in the deep state as a boogeyman.
Hey, I haven't been to Argentina, really, yeah.
I'm just saying, why didn't
I haven't
he
been
go
to
there
one of
and
those
say,
in a long
give me
time.
the files?
So let's just use logic. I can't answer that question. I think it's a great question. Let's just use logic for 1 second. Clearly, if you watch this, in my case, for the same as you, 35 years, watching this stuff carefully, and somebody, gets in office, I'm going to do this, that, and the other thing, and then, 5 days later, they're like, well, actually, someone has called that person to say, there's something you didn't know. Here are the consequences of doing that. Someone has applied very serious pressure on this person. Pressure so serious that person is willing to humiliate himself.
So wait a minute. Here's the part I don't
So who's that person exerting the pressure?
But you are uniquely qualified to get this answer because one of us can call the President of the United States right now and ask him. And the other one is me. So why don't you know?
That's a great question.
It's the only kind I ask.
So what I brought to it was the knowledge that a member of the Senate Intel Committee, I'm not guessing, called over and said you cannot appoint this person.
So why don't you expose that person first of all? So
Why she never got caught?
Arkansas did
Gets caught, okay.
Tom Cotton.
Yes.
All right.
Correct.
And did you ask him?
No, I haven't asked him.
What the hell's going on with you?
I'd like to.
Someone got some Pan 2U
and-
pizza.
Kind of makes people suspicious of you, by the way.
Go
Because
ahead.
if you
Go
know
ahead.
that Tom Cotton said you can't pick this person
That
because
is correct.
and then you didn't go to him and find out why?
Well, I need to sit down with him. I'm not sure that he'll do an interview with me.
With you?
I'm waiting.
You are like the spirit animal of that administration.
No. But it's a fair question. It's a totally fair question, and the answer is, I hadn't thought to do that.
I'll go around and find out.
Been distracted, and I've kind of been.
Now I think you're part of the deep state. And just like that.
I think that I probably wouldn't be saying any of this if I was part of the deep state.
Unless that's what they would do, is make me think that it exists, but you're not sure because it's actually you.
One of the worst things that ever happened to me ever is last year when I was interviewing Putin. It was such a long interview and it was being translated, and I couldn't always hear the translation very well. And apparently in it, he says...
Yeah, I wish I could have made it to Japan and Korea.
I didn't get in.
And leached off the ice beside
I didn't hear him
to
say
get
that.
verified with Kick.
And I have been...
Does LA feel safer with... We don't really feel at the federal level. We need a new mayor. That's what we need, a new governor.
Actually, nobody believes more strongly
Mayor Bass
about
sucks ass, man.
CIA than I do.
Gavin Newsom sucks ass, too.
See some knowledge of the subject.
Yeah, Tucker Carlson is great. I like Tucker Carlson. I didn't really like him at first,
Yes,
but then it kind of grew on me.
Here's all I'm saying. Someone is applying massive pressure to elected officials and has for a very long time. Oh, I have. And when I got into it, I've talked about this before. I don't know, when
I tell you to ask Dan Crenshaw, but he's not going to take it.
no, he's not for sure.
Oh, yeah. Sometimes at FS, I'm using Verizon. Verizon network is sometimes off and on.
Dan Crenshaw is
What
emotional
about that, guys?
and I feel for. Honestly, I'm not.
Stop provoking him.
I didn't even provoke him. I just pointed out.
You provoked him. I saw it on stage.
His state was just invaded by Mexico, and he's worried about Ukraine. It's like, what? Wake up, son. Here are your duties. Let me put them in order. To your family, to your community, to your voters, to your state, to your nation, and maybe Ukraine down there at the bottom. But anyway, that's all I was saying. Here's my point.
Going handicap space. I don't have to walk that far.
I am really concerned, not just because I am curious and I want to get to the bottom of mysteries, which is true, but I'm really concerned that the failure to disclose big things like details about the murder of a president in a democratic country, republic, that will convince people that our system itself is fake. And it's kind of hard to argue that it's real.
I totally
agree.
agree.
If you can't even know who killed the president.
Transparency is trust.
62 years later, Mike Pompeo was working to keep...
Will I ever collab with Blade
American
or
citizens from knowing the murder
Bjorn? I will,
that
but not Blade.
What are you working for, Mike?
I think, yeah, I wouldn't mind reconnecting with Bjorn, but Blade, no. Especially when he's drunk. Hell no. Nope. All right, guys. Just had to pick up a latte. Let's see here.
Then turn right.
Pardon me. There's that Cybertruck. Those Cybertrucks kind of look
Turn right
freaky.
onto South Kenmore Avenue. Then, in 200 feet,
They're supposed to
turn
be
left
bulletproof,
onto
aren't
West
they?
Olympic Boulevard.
I don't know. Well,
It's not the CIA. The CIA. CIA is like a huge federal agency with all kinds of different components and warring tribes within, and like
Drive
there's
north
no
on South Kenmore Avenue.
CIA. Bill
Then make a left
Burns
U-turn to stay on South Kenmore Avenue.
is not like calling Trump and being like, don't release the files.
I agree.
Just credit CIA.
But look, the president knows. We just had an election where he was hammering on these things. And even with UAPs or UFOs, whatever terminology you want, we couldn't get more information. These things are all over the place. Sure, some are helicopters, some are fixed wing. Okay, not all of them. And they don't know? Of course they know. They spend hundreds of millions of dollars on the programs. And then we get all our hopes up.
Drive west
Right?
on San
The
Marino
media
Street.
loves mocking
Then,
News
in
Nation about
500
this because
feet,
they think
turn
that,
right onto South
oh,
Mariposa
Kumo thinks they're
Avenue.
little green men in the basement of some building. No, I don't. It's about knowing that we spend hundreds of millions of dollars and use special
Drive north
operators
onto Doris
to do
Street.
things that
Then,
you won't
in a
tell us
quarter
about.
mile,
And
turn
at a
right onto
minimum,
West 8th Street.
you should say, well,
Drive
here's
north
why
onto
we won't tell
Doris
us.
So what are they?
Then, in
That's
a quarter
exactly right.
mile,
Well, so
turn right
what
onto
are
West
they?
8th
Do
Street.
you think?
I don't know what the fuck they are. The point is that they know, and they won't tell us things. And I think it is anathema to democracy.
Can I, of course I agree with everything you're saying except one specific point, which is I'm not sure they know.
They have programmed. They certainly know more. Put it that way.
They do.
Drive east
they
on
may know
James
that they
Edward
don't
Boulevard.
know, which is
Then
the
turn left
scary
onto
stuff.
South Kenmore Avenue.
And I've certainly called a lot on this topic. I've stopped talking about it in public. I've tried to stop thinking about it because it's just one of those things that drive you crazy. But my strong impression is
Drive east on
that
James Edward Boulevard. In 1,000
they're not.
feet, turn left onto South New Hampshire Avenue.
He campaigned on it. It was supposed to be a no-brainer, and then they put out exactly what the Biden ordered.
No, I'm aware of that.
Administration.
I'm aware of that, and I'm aware of that. And do you think? I mean, that's just my view. I could be completely wrong. but I don't think it's as simple as they know exactly what's going on and they're hiding it.
Well, again, these are your people. Why don't you talk to them? They love you.
Oh my gosh, I have. And,
so what do you got?
And I think
come all the way down here.
We don't
cross
know.
all these
we
bridges.
don't know. And I think that's kind of the scarier answer.
Is
flying over military bases.
Shutting down.
And you don't shoot them down.
Turn left
And then
onto
figure
South
out
New
what
Hampshire
it was.
Avenue. Drive north on South Catalina Street for a half mile.
And so, look, I mean, I think we're getting to the same answer if there is a very obvious mystery that's publicly known, there's public pressure to solve the mystery, to divulge what you know, and you don't.
Yes.
Then there's a real risk. It's not just ass cover.
Or do you have the arrogance to believe that you don't have to tell me?
No, not anymore. Not anymore. Because now that, especially in this administration that was elected with the promise of transparency, there's a real reason. Because there's tons of counter pressure. People are aware, like, where the hell are my Kennedy files? What's going on these things over New Jersey? You said they were over at your house in Bedminster. What is it? And what is this Epstein thing, which all of us watched? George Stephanopoulos is having dinner with us. Everyone you know is over at Epstein's house. Like, Ehud Barak is there every day. Like, what the hell is this? Who killed this guy? He was clearly killed, obviously. Some kid's suicide.
Look, just start there. Show us the files that substantiated the theory of his suicide. Just show it to us.
Or where's your investigation into his death, which you promised Attorney General Barr that you were going to do,
show us.
And you never did?
Yeah.
So, I guess what I'm saying is, if you take 3 steps back, you're like, wait, this isn't just, maybe some of the details are wrong, or certainly stories like this draw all the wackos like a bug light, for sure, and they come up with these fantastical theories to explain it. But just the knowable facts, the confirmed facts, suggest something really, really big. Like, the moment that I never thought much about the Epstein story until I realized that the two-time Republican Attorney General Barr lied about it. Why would Barr lie about this? Epstein's a big Democratic donor. Barr was not close to Trump. He's not covering for Trump.
Turn left onto West
And I don't know the answer, but that was the moment where I said, whoa. All of a sudden, Bill Kristol's lawyer is involved in this, which he was. I don't know, there's just a lot. There's a lot there. There's so much there that it starts to make you nervous, and it makes you think, like, maybe it's not just that things are screwed up on the margins, but maybe at the core is something really dark.
I don't know.
I don't either.
Look, this is the problem with the vacuum of information, right? Is that you then start speculating about why they won't just tell you these things. And
I'm not going to speculate on it because I don't know, and I don't even have like really good theories. I do have some theories, but they can be completely wrong. All I'm saying is a rational person arrives inevitably at the conclusion that there's a real reason these have not been disclosed.
Maybe.
It's not just entropy.
Maybe. I have a conspiracy theory about it. I'm not so sure anymore. So, we love the word patriot, okay? We love it. We love to say that we're patriots. I don't know. I don't know. When I look at the Trump administration, I'm not accusing anybody of anything treasonous. I'm just saying there seems to be a lot of currency these days in destroying things. And I've never seen a president in our lifetime say that everything in government is bad. Trump is the only president, even his speech, which I thought was well written and well delivered for what he wanted to achieve, which is, hey, got a lot of balls in the air, and forget about me promising what will happen day one. Stuff's going to get worse before it gets better. Kind of vibe, which I get why he wanted that speech, given what's happening in the past. But justice doesn't work. The elections don't work. Wall Street is corrupt. None of the institutions
So it's actually almost a
all the tax dollars are wasted. It's like I keep getting the same message from them, and Musk, to me, has been a huge disappointment. I believe the man is a genius. Okay, he's done remarkable things. He doesn't know that the federal judiciary is able to check the executive. He doesn't know that Social Security, the trust fund, isn't part of our debt structure. I can't believe a genius doesn't know these things. So then why would he be missing?
Okay, let me see. Let's see out here. Okay, guys, I'll be right back. Okay. All right.
Like the justice system. He doesn't like people to want Social Security. He doesn't want them to believe that government can do anything. And I don't understand that as a political message from a guy who's in charge of everything now. And what is underlying it in terms of your real ambition?
Well, she's going to
I think I can
school.
answer some of them.
Where's she
I think
staying?
Elon, builds electric cars and rockets and tunneling equipment and telecom,
telecom, et cetera, et cetera. He's a builder of things. He's a businessman. He's an engineer. I'm not surprised he doesn't know the details of how Social Security is structured at all. And I'm not surprised that as a naturalized American, he's not, didn't grow up with Schoolhouse Rock and doesn't understand the three branches perfectly. His job, from what I can tell, is to deal with the one thing that nobody has dealt with, which will be the end of the country, which is the country's bankruptcy. So the debt is what? 36.9, something like 37 trillion. Revenues last year, 2024, total federal revenues were under 5 trillion. Okay, so that doesn't work. And at a certain point, the people who are floating the country, the bond buyers, the foreign bond buyers, like and this doesn't, and everything will collapse. And that's been known for a long time. No one has dealt with it. And from what I can tell, Elon's job is to try and get the spending down, and no one's been able to do that.
Well, get the spending down has to be in the budgeting process. To me, it's a penny wise, pound foolish notion. I'm okay with getting rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. You and I grew up listening to both parties
Waste, fraud, and abuse.
Power, that there was all this waste, fraud, and abuse, and you had to curtail it. And I know it's true. It's always been true. Nobody has ever looked for it and failed to find it. I'm okay with them doing that. But I'll tell you what, if they had called up Carlson and Cuomo and said, would you guys like to serve your country and see what you can find in terms of waste, fraud, and abuse? And we said yes. I'll tell you what we wouldn't do is keep going off half-cocked every day about what we were finding and we weren't sure. We would not do that. We would have immediately come to an agreement.
Yeah, we'd probably
Let's find stuff, okay? And then we're going to go to Congress and we're going to say, look at all this shit we found. And because we don't trust them, we would then go public with it at the same time.
Yeah, I don't think we would have a Blue Ribbon Commission and we present our findings.
But he is going off half-cocked.
None of that's worked, and I feel like, look, we don't know if this is going to work or not. I'm praying that it does, because I think it's our last chance to save the country.
With it working. I want it to work. I feel like he's working against his own goals by getting things wrong all the time.
Maybe, but big picture, he's right. So USAID, which I grew up around in Washington, I really grew up around it. I can just tell you firsthand, having seen it, it is a force for evil in the world. I think it does probably good things on the margins, but bottom line, it is destabilizing other governments. It's a form of the ugliest kind of imperialism, totally detached from American interests. It's like really bad, and the more you know, that's why it's so shocking to read it all, the more indefensible it becomes.
The Secretary of State disagrees with you.
He may or may not. I'm just saying, he's from Miami, I'm from D.C., so I just tell you I have, I think, deep exposure to this, and there's no doubt. By the way, USAID gets zeroed out. How many third world presidents complained about that? Do you see any being like, oh my gosh, we want our aid? They don't want American aid in that form because it destabilizes democratic governments. It overturns the culture of the country. Oh, you need more trans athletes.
Hello?
And there's nothing they can do about it. I don't
Are you at home?
Foreign president in a poor country.
Is Donovan there?
When we shut off that aid, because they didn't want it. So that tells you right there. Now that's a minuscule.
Oh, because he was at home, and now I don't see him on Live 360. So just checking to find out where he's at. And Aaron, I know, is walking over on Mariposa. All right, well, check and see if he's home because he didn't have his phone with him.
Attacked on many sides.
This was before.
All right, bye.
Look, I'm just saying, you and I wouldn't have picked an agency that was looking into one of us without letting people know.
I'm not even aware of
why
that. I
did he
just
tell
think,
us?
big picture, the government is strangling the country. I don't think there's any doubt about that.
What does that mean?
It means that the richest place in the United States is the one place that produces nothing but bureaucratic jobs, D.C. It's the richest place, and it's the highest concentration of wealth in the United States. the counties around D.C. are the richest. They're like the majority of the top 10 are in D.C. And all that money is federal money. None of those people can ever be fired or are. It's not even clear what they're doing. A lot of their budgets are classified. The intel I see, it's like, well, you don't even know what they're spending. They own businesses around the world. This is a fact. I mean, they'll admit it if you ask them. And basically, there's no democratic control over any of this. The voters have no say in how this money is spent, and the people spending it are beyond any kind of correction. There's nothing you can do about it. And so it's truly out of control in a way that makes democracy impossible. And it's also, they're acting in stark interest. So, and then there's the debt overhang, which really threatens in an imminent way to make all these conversations just irrelevant. If we're a poor country, they can't support, a military and can't keep up with our own infrastructure, then like none of this stuff even matters.
So you believe that the answer is to change the institutions, to destroy the institutions? What do you think the answer is?
Everybody loves and appreciates first responders. When things go haywire, they're the ones who show up and make you safe, protect you, not just you, but the entire country. Most people agree they're heroes. But what happens if they can't show up? First responders cannot be everywhere all the time. And if there's an emergency, particularly a big emergency, there aren't enough to go around. So you have to be your own first responder. Before an ambulance arrives, before a doctor can help, it is up to you to protect yourself and your family. And if it's a medical emergency, you could be out of luck because you don't have the right medications. Most people do not have the medications they need at home. There's an answer to that. It's called the JACE case. It's a simple but smart solution to a problem most people don't even think about. It's a set of emergency prescriptive medications curated by medical experts. So you've got peace of mind, knowing that no matter what happens, even if you're a prepared kind of person with stuff stored in your cellar, you probably don't have the right medications. But if there's an infection or any kind of crisis and you don't have access to first responders, you're going to want a JACE case. Medications on hand when they matter most. Go to jace.com and use code Tucker at checkout for a discount. Jace, JASE.com, checkout code Tucker. So, my sense is that you're not going to get anywhere unless, well, and I think this was their calculation, you come out like a freaking wild animal out of a box. So fast, so hard, that you intimidate the shit out of everyone into silence long enough that you gain momentum to continue the process of paring back government. But you really have to immediately occupy the moral high ground. You need to...
Yeah, it's pretty good. This phone's getting pretty hot. All right.
participating in the scam for decades that hurt this country, impoverished its citizens. You did this. And it's only from that posture that you have any power to negotiate the reforms necessary. You sort of have to do what the trans lobby, the human rights
Drive
campaign,
north on South Barrendo
which
Street.
sort of come out of
Then,
nowhere
in
and
700
sort of make the
feet,
case
turn
of,
right
hey,
onto
don't
West
beat up
7th
trans
Street.
kids, which I'm for. Don't beat up trans kids or anybody. If they come out and they're like, you're a transphobe, we're going to picket your house and kill you if you say anything. And people are like, holy shit, they're so intimidated that they just kind of go along with it. I think a functional country doesn't operate that way, but this is not a functional country. This is a country that is like more dysfunctional than we would admit to ourselves.
Right.
And
These kids are walking back home.
But
Turn
one
right
thing
onto
that I think
South
no
New
one
Hampshire
else
Avenue.
can disagree with, we need reform, like immediately, on every level.
Right.
Our military needs to be reformed, the budgeting process needs to be reformed, the way that our economy is structured clearly benefits just a tiny percentage of the population. That's not sustainable, et cetera, et cetera. Like, we need reform badly. We can't keep doing it this way.
Well, we've been saying that a long time.
I know. And Trump is the first, and again, I don't know if it's going to work. I'm praying that it will, because this country is the last hope of the world. I really believe that more than ever, having just come back from other countries.
Right? That's why we have to make our kids travel. Because
Oh.
everybody thinks America is the worst place in the world until you go somewhere else.
Dude, yes.
You know?
And the thing that we need to preserve, I'm more convinced.
That's why I'm a little worried about all the bashing of our institutions. Reform? Sure. Do it better, do it differently, do it less, do it more, whatever it is? Sure. But the idea that there is no more justice in America, I don't believe that. All the elections are rigged. I don't believe that. We can't function. It's demonstrably false. So making things better is fine if you have the ideas and the wherewithal to make it happen. But what I'm sensing from this administration is it's all broken, tear it all down. And that's easy to say.
Southwestern Law School right here on the left.
Well, it's actually easy to do. It's easy to tear things down. Much easier than it is to build them.
If you want to become an
Careful
attorney,
of revolutionary moments. I mean, very few.
that's where you want to
things.
go.
Ours did, I think, in this country 250
They
years
never
ago.
rebuilt
Very
this
few
on the
others did.
right.
I can't really think of any that
Well,
did.
we had an oppressive force. Interestingly, and this is something I'm very anxious for you to explain to me. So I get fired, and I'm watching Ukraine, and it was personally maddening to me because I had not covered a conflict since I was involved in the business. So I'm watching. The whole country's behind me, and I kept hearing, it's like they're kind of like us. They're fighting against this oppressor and trying to shut it off so they can be their own way, get away from the dictators and everything. And then Trump has that I thought was a complete waste of time. You were never going to remove it. That's their choice. They went their way.
In 600 feet,
Then Biden comes in.
2703 West 8th Street,
Everybody's
Los
still
Angeles,
doing what they were
California
doing, trying to
90005-1235.
Biden is slow walking it, not
United
getting what
States
they
Hotel
needed.
Line.
They're all
2703
kind of
West 8th
idiots.
Street, Los
Now Trump
Angeles,
comes back,
California
and all of a sudden, all the people who are in favor of Ukraine on the right now say that it's a kleptocracy and Zelensky is a bad guy and Putin, not so bad. Russia, not so bad. Their concerns about NATO, pretty justified. It's really NATO and America that has done the wrong thing here and forced Russia's hand. And Ukraine and Zelensky kind of did too, and they're really dirty, and they're stealing more money and selling more stuff. I don't believe any of it. And I hear it all the time. You are a big purveyor of this, and I want to understand it. How did everything change this way?
Well, it changed.
All right, let me go back. I'll be right back, guys. that's what I'm saying. He should tell us where he's going. He can't just leave. And he... Yeah? Okay, well he was late. He was late for one of his classes today. Yeah. Well, that was it? Okay. Oh, okay. Alright. Alright. See you later. Bye. Alright, guys. Oh, man.
And they respond just to one stimulus, which is election. That's it. And if they think something will get them reelected, they'll say it. And if they don't, they won't.
Appreciate the likes, buddy. If you give me likes.
So they're just, I mean, that's just what they are.
And oh, yeah, please follow me on kick.com, too.
Animals who's...
You can follow me on Kick, that'd be awesome. I want to get verified.
Or machines.
I want to do live streaming full time, guys.
So the fact
I just
that,
need
like,
more
these guys are
financial
showing up,
support.
like, you know, Zelensky, who was my blood
If I can
brother
make
last week,
1,000 a
is now
week doing
bad guy.
kick.com, I'd do it.
I've said
I
the
would
same thing, I think,
leave.
since day one, which is this is not in our interest at all. And
What I'm doing right now.
We've really hurt ourselves, and we've dislodged the dollar from its preeminence, and that has consequences people are not thinking through. And Russia, of course, has an interest in what happens in Ukraine, and of course they don't want American missiles on their border any more than we'd want Chinese missiles in Tijuana. Like, that's of course that's a real thing. And moreover, the thing
Black Hole Sun is the best song ever.
If you run America, the thing you fear most is the alignment of Russia with China.
Never heard of that
Because then
song.
you unite the world's largest
Who
country,
sings that song?
largest nuclear arsenal with the world's largest economy and the world's largest population, and that becomes a bloc that many others gravitate to. We're calling it the BRICS now, and that becomes, you know, something that you can't resist. That controls global trade routes, that controls global currency, and that reduces you, the United States, to the bitch position very fast.
Understand, but even within that, the premise is Russia bad, China potentially bad.
What does bad even mean? I mean, like,
Russia bad means
Bad.
they are consistently invested in what's bad for America. Putin is a
they
constant...
certainly are now. They're aligned with
Oh, wait, sound
China.
aren't, okay.
So yeah, that was not true at the beginning of 2022, and so
But invading Ukraine was wrong, what they did. And Ukraine did not start
Turn
that.
right
Well,
onto
the whole
West
thing was wrong. No, Russia invaded Ukraine
Yes.
for one specific reason, despite all the lying from Ann Applebaum and the Atlantic Council and the professional liars and morons in Washington who got us into the Iraq War and Libya and Syria and every other disaster. I've never apologized or been penalized for it. The truth is that Russia's concern was that Ukraine remain not part of NATO. They want to control Ukraine to some extent. It's their neighbor in the same way that we want to control, I don't know, Canada or Mexico. You don't have to, you know, run the municipal elections in the country, but you don't want, like, if you had a government in Canada that was, like, bent on destroying the United States, you would overthrow the premier of Canada because you can't have that. It's your neighbor. You're a great power. And that's how Russia sees itself. Now, you could say, well, that's against international law or whatever, but that's the way nations behave. And great nations have an expectation they're not going to have an enemy on their border if they can help it.
But NATO isn't inherently an enemy. It is to protect against the illegal and wrongful annexation of sovereigns.
Okay, Ukraine is not sovereign, and Ukraine's government was installed in a coup by the CIA in 2014. So it's not a sovereign nation.
Well,
it's a satellite of the United
Ukraine's
States.
regime.
We installed their government. They're not sovereign. Like, what?
Ukraine is a sovereign, as you know.
In
But
what way?
Russia had put a puppet in. There was a democratic revolution there that Zelensky wound up winning that election, second round of voting. That was to remove the Russian puppet who went back with a lot of money into Russia.
No, you're yeah, whatever. I mean, you're skipping over. That's actually not at all what happened. Zelensky did not become president in 2014, which was when my
No, but I'm saying that's that country.
Well,
That's what they were
call
against.
Russia wanted Ukraine. Okay, I get it. It's on their borders. That's just a fact. And you could say, well, it shouldn't be a fact, but it is a fact. So
So
if
we
you're
don't have nuclear weapons on the border. The only nuclear weapon.
Well,
the only
really? So NATO doesn't have look
in Ukraine. No.
Okay. Their concern was...
And Ukraine used to have a lot of nukes, and they agreed to get rid of them on the basis of protection from Russia.
Those were Soviet nukes,
right?
And that was negotiated by the United States. But
right.
Okay. All I'm saying is, if you're thinking about it from the perspective of what's good for the United States, you do not want Russia becoming in close military alliance and economic alliance with China. You don't want that, because that becomes a bloc that you can't defeat, from which you will soon be taking orders. And every administration has understood this. The Biden administration went to the Munich Security Conference in February of 2022 and had the Vice President of the United States, Kamala Harris, say at a press conference to Zelensky, we want you in NATO. NATO don't want Ukraine. There never was a referendum in Ukraine what the Ukrainians wanted. We want you to be an American satellite with American weapons in your country. She said that, knowing that was the red line. It was like, look, I just don't want Ukraine in NATO. You've had all these countries around my borders in NATO. I don't know why you're doing that. I still don't know to this day why we're doing that. That's an aggressive, offensive move. But you cannot have Ukraine. It's too big. It's too important. Our energy pipelines go through. No. And they insisted on doing this, and Putin gave a speech immediately afterwards in Russia. No Americans ever watched it. You should. It's really interesting, saying this NATO thing is too much. We have to invade, and we're doing it. Those are the facts, okay? So the question is, why would you do that? Ukraine is not sovereign. It never was. You know that Ukraine cannot beat Russia in a conventional war. Russia's got 100 million more people and much deeper.
But that doesn't mean you let them pass over. And Ukraine is a sovereign. It's its country.
In what sense are they making independent decisions? I'll give you in April of 2022, 2 months after this war starts, very clear that Russia is going to win. It's just a much bigger country, period. And so the Ukrainians and the Russians start having peace talks. What do you do with that? There's a Russian military naval base there, as you know. And what a country this, some unemployed, indebted Brit is showing up on behalf of the United States to lecture the so-called president of Ukraine about what he can do with his own country. It's not sovereign in any sense. And they break off the peace talks. This is all like, I'm not making this up, look it up. And 1 million more Ukrainians died. The country's totally destroyed forever. And then Zelensky goes and changes the law in Ukraine to allow foreigners to buy farmland in Ukraine, to buy the soil of Ukraine. So you wind up with a country whose population has just been killed, that no longer owns its land. So big American companies, multinational companies, can go and just buy Ukraine. This is the total destruction of a European nation. And in the United States, we feel like, oh no, we're fighting on behalf of Churchill. No, we just destroyed Ukraine because we want to fight Russia. And now that is the core, the desire of the American foreign policy establishment to have a war with Russia. That does not make any sense to me. I'm not a Putin lover, or I don't speak Russian. I've got nothing to do with Russia. I just don't understand why it's in America's national interest to be at war with Russia. It's not. And these are people with very deep emotional hatred of Russia. I can't even speculate as to where that comes from. But it's real. I've certainly seen it a lot. And it's not consistent with our interests as a nation. It has not helped the United States at all. It's hurt us. We spent over $100 billion when we're bankrupt. And all we've achieved is destroying this nation that didn't really do anything. The poor Ukrainians didn't do anything. It's horrible what we've done.
Zelensky articulates a very different case, right?
What's his case?
His case is he wanted America and Europe to help them fight back Russia because Russia wants to reestablish the USSR. And he wants to keep Ukraine sovereign. Of course, he has cultural and geographic issues in the eastern part of his country. And that has been an ongoing problem for them. I was in Ukraine when the Russian separatists shot down that Malaysian Airlines plane, lied about it, wouldn't let the bodies be reclaimed. It was a whole thing. Putin installed a guy named Borowski, who was supposedly the prime minister of Donetsk. It was all bullshit because that's what
yeah, good DoorDash, man.
So they wanted help. They want to stay sovereign. America was helping with them with that, and that was just so Zelensky's beef.
It's been really slow, though.
They're stealing all our money. They're selling all our weapons to Mexican cartels. None of these things are true.
That is right.
No, it's not true. It's not true.
It's going to be raining tomorrow. The weather is going to be changing drastically tomorrow.
Just to define sovereignty. Sovereignty is the freedom to make independent decisions. And Ukraine does not have that and has never had that since 2014 when its government was installed by an American coup.
Zelensky would say he was democratically elected.
Well, he's not democratically elected. He's passed his term.
Well,
and so by what authority hold on, let me question.
Go ahead.
By what authority does Zelensky negotiate on behalf of his country, rule his country? He just put his main political opponent under indictment and froze his personal funds under internal sanctions, the security services of Ukraine.
Sounds familiar, doesn't it? We just went through the same thing in this country.
Sounds like dictatorship.
What I'm saying,
by the way.
No, but he's not a dictator. And
then by what authority does he rule Ukraine?
So here's how. He was elected, and now, under their constitution, he does have the ability to stall elections and operate under martial law during the conflict.
So you're comfortable with people saying, I mean, well, no, he could certainly hold election
if he wanted. But he is
now on an election. You're from global.
It's the same thing with Israel right now. They're not having elections either because they're in the midst of an active conflict. It's not a time for transition of power.
Okay, but I don't know why we make excuses for dictatorship.
It's not a dictatorship.
Of course it is. Any unelected leader who has the
was
power.
Elected. He was elected.
Actually, he has a presidential term.
Right.
If Joe Biden just said, you know what, we're in a conflict right now, I can't have elections, I'm canceling the election, or if Donald Trump...
But there's a constitutional provision for this.
Okay. He could have an election whenever he wanted. He could have an election right now. No one doubts that, actually. And his opponent was calling for that before he was just shut down by the Ukrainian intel services a week ago. So there's no authority. He doesn't have democratic authority over his country. What he has is a lot of NATO weapons. And to your second point, he has absolutely, as a matter of fact, the Ukrainian military has sold those weapons on the black market around the world. And they have these are facts. They wind up in the hands of, among others, the Mexican drug cartels, the Taliban, Hamas in Gaza, fact, and a lot of other groups. And it's incredibly destabilizing, by the way. The United States did this years ago in Afghanistan, as you know, and sent a bunch of Stinger missiles to the Soviets. And those
How are you,
missiles
Hans?
caused huge problems for all of Southwest Asia for like 20 years. And so this is a big deal, and I don't know why people feel like they have to lie about it now.
I don't know that it's about lying about it. I don't agree that those are facts.
You don't believe that the Ukrainian military...
It's working.
You know what?
The clock changed, so now we're only an hour difference. Because now we're on daylight savings time, so...
No, I don't have
Una hora de diferencia.
I do, so we're not doing a...
Son las 6:20
That's a
en la tarde,
no one believes me. I know someone who bought some of the
Gracias,
weapons.
hermano.
Just, I can't.
Well, first of all, you would have to...
Bien, estoy bien, gracias. Estoy trabajando, estoy haciendo las entregas. Voy a Culver City para dejar una entrega. Y estoy escuchando Tucker Carlson and Chris Cuomo. They're debating about Ukraine.
That because they're
not mere suspicion. I know someone who bought some of the weapons.
Yeah, you're about an hour ahead then.
What I'm saying I'm saying that, well, you know that they say it. You don't know whether they did. And I'll tell you
once the sun goes down, it's going to get dark. Cuando baja el sol, ya va a ser mucho frío.
That Russia put out those...
No mucho, pero poquito.
Were from like 2014.
Mañana,
they didn't even have javelins.
Miércoles y creo que jueves va a ser lluvia. So the weather's going to change drastically.
To make them look bad is, to me, propaganda and not proof that they did it. Are you texting while I'm having a conversation?
I'm texting right now. I'm texting on WhatsApp right now on this exact subject.
Tucker, I'm not saying you're lying. I'm saying I'm disagreeing that it's a fact that the military there is spending weapons that they very much need to Mexican cartels. Why does Mexico's cartels need to get weapons from Ukraine when they get them across our border with straw buyers all the time? I mean, to me, it doesn't even make sense from a practicality standpoint. It seems like
you can get surface-tier missiles from straw buyers.
No, not surface-tier missiles. Not small arms. Small arms.
Small arms. Small arms anywhere. But look, I'm talking about weapons systems.
But this is not documented stuff, and it seems to us Ukraine make them the bad guy, makes Russia the good guy.
Ukraine. Okay. This is one of those topics that I'm just gonna.
I'm not mad at you.
No.
It's a conversation.
Because I know this is true.
I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm saying I don't know.
It's a fact, and unfortunately, I can't. And maybe I shouldn't have brought it up because I can't name the person who.
I don't want you to expose a source.
I'm not going to.
What I'm saying is, look, people
Let me
People
bottom line
do
by
bad
saying
things with
I
money
have
that we give.
a huge amount of knowledge on this one topic. I'm wholly ignorant of many topics. I know a lot about this topic.
And you think Zelensky's a bad guy who's a dictator?
What I'm telling you is the Ukrainian military has sold huge amounts of American-supplied, NATO-supplied weapon systems around the world, and that they're purchasable now by governments and armed groups and are being purchased.
And why hasn't it been documented?
I'm just telling you that if this will be documented, and I got that directly once again from someone who purchased quite a few of those weapons, who I know personally, and in another country, and knows a lot about this. It runs a military, and it's just frustrating because I can't say
But I'm
these and that.
not, look, my point is not to frustrate you, Tucker. It's to understand this mentality of framing Ukraine as Zelensky
It's
as
not a
the bad guy.
mentality. It's not. Look, it's noting the facts. The guy's not elected.
He is elected. His term has been expended
Would you
constitutionally.
be comfortable if we were? Well, we are at war with Russia right now. We've Donald Trump. It is a war with Russia. Americans have died.
Proxy.
It's a war that we're funding.
We're not on the ground there.
There's many Americans in Ukraine fighting.
U.S. military.
There are
is
U.S.
not in the
military.
ground.
Yes, there are.
Look, I know that there are.
What are you talking about?
They're not actively fighting
What
Russia.
do you mean they're guiding weapons into Russia?
Yes.
What do you mean they're not actively fighting? They're absolutely actively fighting.
Well,
We're at
have
war.
we declared war?
Of course not. We didn't declare war in Vietnam or Korea. That doesn't mean anything.
True. Did in
We
Iraq.
didn't declare war. I guess we did. That went well.
There was a coalition war.
Of course. But the point is, if Trump were to say we're at war with Russia, I can't have a relationship. I would say that's not legitimate. You do not have the authority to extend, and I don't care, what pretext you make up for it. You can't put your opponents in jail. You can't. But more than anything, what I'm saying is that this is scary. It's not even blaming Zelensky. There are many power centers within Ukraine. There's military and intel services. There's the president's office. There are competing political.
People say the same things about us, by the
Of
way.
course, it's true. It's true. Especially true here. It's a huge country. I'm not even blaming Zelensky directly. I'm saying this is the largest country in Europe. We have poured billions of dollars in pretty high-tech weapons systems into this country, and we're not keeping track of them. We also have biolabs throughout the country. We have biolabs.
And we're about to have more of a footprint because the mineral deal will put American companies on the ground in those areas that are right now war
assess
zones.
that. All I'm saying is we've funded the worst war Europe has seen since World War II for 3 years. That entails an awful lot of weapons, including bioweapons. I'm not guessing. This is a fact. Tori Nuland said it in a conversation with the now Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, in the Senate on camera. So there are biolabs in Ukraine with biological weapons in them. Who the hell is keeping track of this stuff? That's all I'm saying. It's not an attack on Zelensky. We have a moral obligation to keep track of this stuff. There's never been an audit.
I have no problem with that.
It's fucking crazy.
I have no problem with
Call for a destabilization of the world. Like, why are we doing this?
So do you believe that we should just back out of what we're doing there now and let Russia take it?
Russia take it? I don't know. At this point, Russia has, we're not in charge. Russia just won. They beat us in their war. In case you haven't noticed, Russia outproduced in munitions NATO, including the United States, 4-1. So we just lost the war. So we are not negotiating from a position of strength. Sorry. I'm not taking Russia's side. I'm on America's side. This is terrible for us. We've exposed how weak we are. We couldn't beat Russia, which many members of the U.S. Senate assured me was, quote, a gas station with...
That was McCain's line.
Hey, what a fucking idiot that guy was. What an idiot he was. I knew him and I liked him, but he was like an idiot. A gas station with nuclear weapons. Really? Have you...
See, I saw it the other way, which is we thought Russia was going to roll over Ukraine, and they have been unable to
They
really
rolled
move the
over
line.
us. They took a big chunk of eastern Ukraine, and for 3 years we've progressed toward bankruptcy trying to stop it, and we've not been able to. They won. This is bad. It's bad for American prestige. It's bad for the projection of American power. Everyone knows what we're capable of and what we're not capable of. It's divided our country. All these dumb Ukraine people are flying foreign flags in front of their houses.
See, I feel that the division is forced in this country. That, to me, it seems pretty basic that Russia can't have Ukraine because it doesn't stop it.
What are we going to do?
It doesn't stop it.
We already... But, okay, but it's so...
And it's Estonia and Latvia.
Estonia. You know, it's always some chick, that blonde chick. I'm the president of Estonia. You know, a country of 5 million people that invented the sauna. By the way, I'm part Finnish. I'm not against Estonia. I'm sure it's great. But the idea that some woman who's never been in the armed service, like, setting military policy for the EU, you know, we're going to do this, you can't do anything. You don't have an army. Britain's army is smaller than the U.S. Marine Corps. NATO, which is a coalition that includes, by the way, Turkey, it's like this huge coalition, couldn't beat Russia. That is the fact. I don't want that to be the fact. That is the fact. So Americans are like, well, we can't allow this. Well, what are you going to do?
I don't say that it's a fact because we are not fighting in earnest in that country.
So what? Okay, so what would you? Here are the terms. We have a nuclear-armed power, largest nuclear arsenal in the world, that is fighting for its very life, that is aligned with China. Okay, which is the largest economy in the world.
Well, I don't know that Russia's fighting for its life. I think Putin forced this situation.
Okay, whatever. Leaving aside moral culpability, I'm just saying it's a big deal for them. It's on their border. It's their border, okay? So we don't like it. We weighed in on the other side to fight
phone's
Russia.
getting too hot again.
We haven't won. So now what are our options? Like, actually, what are our
74%.
options?
I'm going to turn my phone off to let it cool down again, guys.
The options are what President Trump is doing right now, which is to try to get the parties to the table and draw a line in the sand and make a deal.
Anyway, this is an interesting
The only
conversation
option
they're
I see,
having.
any other options, but maybe I'd love to hear what they are.
No, I mean, there's never any other option unless you want to actively fight.
Let me turn my phone off. I'll go live again later.
And occupy.
Thanks for hanging out, guys.
No one.
Appreciate you.
Well, look, both sides are manpower.